Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repeat Ron, and today we're going to be talking about the new Killing Floor 2 beta. This is the second beta of the Halloween update. It came a bit later than I was expecting it to. I figured it would be in the second week of September, and then the official release would probably be the first week of October. I still probably think that that's when they're going to release it. So if anybody shows up to the Killing Floor streams or any of my other streams and wonders when the official date is, they haven't released it. They just said the beta will end at this... it will end at the final release date of this, which is extremely vague. It's just the beta is going to go until it doesn't go anymore, and then it's going to be live. But let's talk about some of the changes that they made. They honestly didn't change that much in this one, at least for the majority of the changes that they made in the first beta. So SWAT didn't get any sort of changes, which is good. The new SWAT perks feel pretty good on them. Let's move on to the weapons that did get changed. So the Piranha Pistols did get changed, but only very slightly, which is kind of odd for me because so many people were saying the Piranha Pistols are overpowered. And they sort of are, at least on Gunslinger. On Berserker, I think they're fine. Berserker, they're just another good ranged option. They're still probably not competing with the Frostfang when it comes to good ranged weapons for the Berserker. That doesn't mean you can't use them in combination. On Gunslinger, they're just strong because they're on Gunslinger, and you just gave Gunslinger a weapon that can block and parry, which was one of the things that got changed. So the Piranha Pistol's ammo pool got lessened by a little bit. Your spare ammo is no longer 72, it's now 66. The block and parry damage reduction has been reduced by 10%, so now block damage reduces damage by 30%. The parry damage reduces damage by 40%. This, honestly, I don't think will affect Gunslinger pretty much at all. It's just kind of nice that Gunslinger has a weapon they can block and parry with, so if Flesh Pounds or Scrakes do manage to get close to you, you can just toss up your block and not take as much damage while you're running around. That's what they're really going to help Gunslinger with. Price got slightly increased per magazine by $6 or $6, and then they also kind of set the iron sights so that they would be better centered on the screen, which I complained about when I first talked about the Piranha Pistols. The sights, at least when you're just aiming down one of them, seemed like the sight was raised too high. It needed to be lowered for you to actually be shooting where you would still be hitting headshots at least consistently. Other than that, nothing else really got changed about them. So all of their damages are the same, their scaling's the same, their weight's the same. They're still probably going to be one of Gunslinger's best weapons and a pretty strong weapon on Berserker. I am kind of surprised that these ones didn't get changed when the other ones did. So moving on to the Corruptor Carbine. This one got nerfed slightly. It's secondary fire where you implant the seed into enemies and then once it goes off. The explosion damage got nerfed by 100, so it no longer does 400 damage, it's 300 damage. The gas duration, or I guess the seed duration, doesn't last 5.5 seconds. Now it's 5 seconds. And if you direct impact somebody with the seed, then you will only heal them for 25 health rather than 30 health. I don't know why that was changed, because this weapon is difficult to hit people with while they're moving, because it has travel time and it has no lock on. So I'm unsure as to why the healing got lessened. I honestly don't think that the explosion damage getting lessened really mattered, since most of the time you were using it to clear small Zeds, and I don't think you have enough damage for it to hit breakpoints on medium or large Zeds unless you have two of them going off, in which case maybe this might have made it so quarter pounds don't die if two of them explode right next to it. But that's about the only thing I can think of that might hit that damage threshold, and I haven't checked it or tested it or anything like that. So the Corruptor Carbine will still probably be performing quite well. It's still a good weapon on Medic and a pretty good weapon on Sharpshooter. Next weapon that got changed was the HRG Disruptor. This one got nerfed pretty hard. I'm not sure why, because I thought that this weapon was fine. It's not one of Gunslinger's top weapons. It wasn't before this nerf, and it certainly isn't going to be now. So its primary damage got lessened from 90 damage to 80 damage. Its alternative mode got lessened from 300 damage to 120 damage. So I don't really see a point in using the alternative mode unless you just want to apply the EMP effect. But it's still such a loss in damage per ammo that you're using compared to just spam firing the primary fire that it doesn't really help it that much. The ammo pool is also reduced from 135 to 120. Which I figured that was the part that would probably be increased, if anything, because it felt like it didn't have that many shots. And then the ammo price also went up by $5 per magazine from 65 to 75. So it's more expensive and it does less damage. It scales the same way and it has the same weight, so it'll be a fine off-perk weapon, because it still is hitting as hard as like the Winchester. but it can shoot faster than the Winchester. You could definitely argue that like the Winchester is now better though than it, and I would say it would be before this anyway, just because you can upgrade that thing so high. So now when you upgrade it, I think its damage would go up to like 88 damage, and its secondary fire would go up to something like 132 damage per shot, because I think it's a 10% increase, unless it's a 15%, in which case I'm off by a little bit. So not as good as it was before. I don't really know why this was changed, because as a gunslinger weapon, it wasn't as strong as the Desert Eagles. It wasn't as strong as the 500 Magnums. It wasn't as strong as the 2011s. I don't think it was as strong as the dual Glocks either. It wasn't as strong as the centerfire either for gunslinger. It's very odd that they would choose to nerf this one of all the weapons, because I thought this one was fine. And then the last weapon that got changed was the HRG Tommy Boom. Tommy Boom got an increase in damage from 25 damage to 30 damage per shot. Its damage radius was increased by 50, so it has better splash damage. And its upgrades make it so it scales better by 5% more. Rather than 15%, it scales by 20% increments. And you also get one additional spare magazine that you normally that you didn't have before when you buy the gun at the start. That is okay. The Tommy Boom needed the buff out of everything. It was the weakest weapon, and I still think that it is the weakest weapon, because it still runs into the problem of being at 7 weight, which means you can't pair it with the rocket launcher. And at 7 weight, it's just kind of awkward, because you don't really want to upgrade this weapon all the way. It's at 7 and it goes up to 10. So even with upgrades and it getting 5% better than it did before, it's still not going to scale very well with upgrades. And it will pretty much just be used to mess around with if you're running Destroyer of Worlds, or it's going to be like a secondary weapon that you take if you're taking something like the Seal Squeal as your primary weapon. That's the main use I see for it, or you're going to take it with something like the Kaboom Stick. It's still going to be an awkward weapon to use. It's not going to be like a super top tier weapon or anything like that. And I don't even know how often you're actually going to see it taken. You'll probably see it taken fairly often, at least early on for demo. People have said that this one is better on Survivalist, which I would believe so, because you have the extra weight, so you can just have this primarily for killing small things and then go with Weapon Harness and go with like the rocket launcher then if you want, or the AA-12 or something like that. The Mine Reconstructor got buffed a little bit more, so now that it can heal a little bit better than it did before, which is good. The Mine Reconstructor is still probably not one of like a weapon you're going to see very often on Medic. It's good on certain maps, but on the majority of maps it's not really that great, just because of the way that it functions. Even if it's, much better than it was previously, it's still not necessarily good on a big open map, especially if your team wants to spread out or wants to keep rotating. It's just not going to help you as much as like in a holdout map. In a holdout map, that's a different story. I think it will be good. The problem remains, though, is that it comes in at a weird weight of 8. And in a holdout map, the 501 Medic Assault Rifle is really good. So it becomes, which one do you want? You can't take both unless you're playing it with like Survivalist, but even then it's going to be kind of weird to be using on them. It's better to use on Medic. So Mine Reconstructor, I still doubt you'll see all that often, but it is better than it was before. And then the Hemoclobber also got nerfed again. So in this patch, the Hemoclobber actually dropped its the amount that it can heal, and it dropped it again with this most recent beta by 5 more points. So now the Healing Explosion only heals for 15 points rather than 20 before, and I think it was 25 before that. Also, the cartridge got lessened in the last beta as well, so you no longer hold 3 rounds in the Hemoclobber base, you only hold 2. You can get 3 if you're running the 1 medic perk. I don't remember what that one was called, but whichever one gives you extra ammo, then you can hold 3 in it. This, they keep saying that the Hemoclobber is overperforming for Berserker weapons, and I don't think that any of these changes are actually going to change that. I still think it's probably going to be one of the best Berserker weapons because they don't really address the main reason as to why it's a good Berserker weapon. I'm assuming the balance team figured that it was overperforming because you can heal yourself and have lots of sustain, which is really good on Berserker, a class that already has really high defensive ability, as well as if you add more sustain on top of that, you just get tankier and tankier. But it still only weighs 4. It's still a healing weapon. It still has an AoE hit. And this AoE hit still lingers on enemies, so it's going to kill anything that's small in there. It's going to poison anything that's large, which is likely going to cause it so none of those enemies are attacking you directly. You still get the healing from it, and so do your allies, so it's still useful in that regard. And it only weighs 4. With it only weighing 4, there's not a better secondary weapon that Berserker has. You can pair this with literally anything that they have, which means you're likely going to, because it gives a lot of utility, and your other weapon could be your primary weapon if you want to go with the Ion Thruster, Pulverizer, Eviscerator, the new Piranha Pistols, whatever you want to go with. It's still going to make a fantastic secondary to take. So even with all these nerfs, the Hemoclobber is still probably going to be the most seen Berserker weapon around. And I doubt that's going to change because I don't think they understand what makes it good. So I'll do this again once this beta actually goes live, and then we can talk about all the weapons. I'll also be doing tier lists and probably some more review videos about how good each of the weapons are once they actually go live. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did and you're not subscribed, be sure that you get subscribed. That way you get notifications. Special thanks to all the supporters of the channel. I really do appreciate you guys. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. If you would like to be a part of that, there are links down in the description. And if you would like to see any of my other Killing Floor content, be sure to click over here on this list. That'll take you to a full playlist of them. I will see you guys next time. Bye.